Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited to be here, and yes, it's time to talk about books which I read in 2 months. So yeah, today it would be hopefully not long wrap up, and I want to tell you about 14 books which I read in 2 months. And actually I want to say that they were okay, but I wanted to talk with you about them because there would be some of the popular books and I want to share with you opinions. So let's start with the book which I have in the paper cover, and this would be the one book in the paper because other books I read only in electronic version on my Kindle. So the first book which I want to discuss today, it's Riley Sager and Survive the Night, and this the first book which I read on this author. I know that the author is really popular. A lot of people love his stories. Most of the time told about them with some exciting moments, with just fire in the eyes, and you just can understand that yes, you need to try it. And also Riley Sager for me was the author which I actually know, but I haven't read. And for me, it was really strange to know about his stories, to know about plot of his stories, but actually didn't know my emotional level, my opinion about his stories. And I decided in March to start my meeting with the author. We Survive the Night. And I want to tell you that I put this story 3 out of 5, and I wasn't so excited because the beginning was really interesting. But for me, it was really strange to see some stupid moments in the story, because actually the story talks us about the girl who was in depressed mood, and in one moment she decided to go the share road trip with the man. Actually she didn't know this man before, and she just know the adverts in the university campus and decided to go with him. But she went with him in the one car, just two of the people, she and this man, after 2 months when her best friend was killed by serial killer in this campus. So actually all is strange, and for me the beginning of the story was really strange and unusual, because actually for me it was a really stupid line for starting a thriller, because for me this girl was really strange and I actually don't feel anything to her, not sadness, not excuses, nothing. Just I understood that she is stupid and she decided to go to the road trip with unknown man, and probably this man would be a serial killer who killed her girl, her best friend, her girl, her roommate, and so on. And for me it was really strange. So all the story, we are in a car mostly, and we start to understand more the girl, this man. We just see their dialogues, they strange most of the time dialogues, and actually I was really disappointed when I'm reading this one, and I'm just expected that it would be something unusual in the finishing line. But actually finishing line was like okay. For me it was like from the action film, and I understood that Riley Sager is an author who like more action, who like more suspense, who like giving the reader a lot of moments where you just expect one, but actually in the finishing line you can have other things and you just can understand what would be the twist. Actually the book was written really fast and it's page turning, the reading is really great, but actually the story I didn't love it, and it was a lot of questions when I read it. So I have some stickers there with my questions, with some disappointing moments, and of course with some stupid moments when the main girl started to think that, oh my gosh, probably the man who is near with me in the car is a serial killer. What do I need to do? So actually yeah, but I wanted to continue my meeting with the author. The next story which I read, it was Jasmine Ward, Sing Unburied Sing, and this is a really great story which are talking about the family of the people, the Afro-Americans. And I love how the author show us really greatly the South Gothic, and I was really enjoying all these ghost moments, enjoying all these hallucination moments when our main character, one of the main character, just seeing the dead people, just try to connect with them or try not with some of them. And it was really interesting, the atmosphere, the nature, the description of this nature, the atmosphere of this family house, because we have main characters, a lady and her small kids. One is a small and one is a teenager, he's 13 years, and they live with with grandparents in one house, and we just see who these people, how they live, about their past, about their present moment, how do they feel themselves, what about their life, how they feeling about their intolerant moments which they can just bump in reality. And it was really interesting that the story you can see from the different eyes, from the mom of these kids, from the teenager boy who just started to understand everything around him, that everything is not good, everything is a disaster, and he just need to be closer to his small sister because she was 3 or 4 years old, so she was really small. He just wanted to take more care to the kid because mom was not really good, and she actually doesn't want to spend time with kids because she has another dreams, she has another moments which she wanted to have. And actually in the beginning of the story we understood that she had another dreams, not just kids in the family. And also I love the grandparents, especially grandpa. He was really strong, courage, really great. He has a really interesting thoughts, and actually he was a strong man who just showed the way to his daughter and her kids for showing what is the world and why it exists and why the situation like this, like now they have. Actually I put the story 4 out of 5. The story was really great, but actually for me finishing line wasn't unfinished because author just give you the finishing line, and it was a really interesting, really intriguing, but I actually wanted to know what could be next with these characters, because actually I was enjoyed to be with them, and enjoyed not only in a pleasant moment because we can see a lot of bad things which can happen with them. So the next story which I want to talk today, it's a really interesting story of one of my favorite authors. It's Pratchett and The Amazing Maurice and His Educated Rodents. So story is really easy, is really interesting, well paced. I read this for one evening because it's really small and it looks like a fairy tale for kids, and it's really greatly if you have kids and you can read all these moments before bed, because story is talking about the great cat Maurice. He can talk, he can think, and he has idea like a business plan to try to make a lot of money in his life, because he wanted to have an easy life at retirement moment when he will be really old. And he found some rodents, some rats, and they also started to understand themselves, because actually it was a magical university somewhere in the city, and these rats were just near with this magical university, just eating some rubbish from the university, and they understood that the Maurice can help them in the future, and they have a group at the company, and they decided to make this business trip in reality. So the business trip was from one place to another, from one city to another city, to go there for making money. The plan was like they come to the city, and if Maurice understand that it's actually a great city and we can have a lot of money, he just asked rats to go to the city and just to be annoying to the people, and for some days just making some disaster there, eat their food and so on. And after some days, Maurice and another partner in this group, a boy who just playing the music, they just come to the city and save everybody there just with making some music, and a rat just listen to the music, just go into the river, and they just die in there. So actually it's a really interesting story, and I love how Pratchett took the legendary fairy tale and how he put this fairy tale in his story, because actually I love the Maurice character. He is a really great cat with really interesting ideas, with really interesting dreams. And actually in this story we are in a moment when our group just come in new city, and in the city something strange. There is no one mouse, no one rat. I really love the story, and also how always Pratchett loves, he puts a lot of philosophy, puts a lot of interesting thoughts, and actually I love this story. I put this 4 out of 5, and of course I will continue read stories and series from Pratchett. ideas, because I really love how it's written, the atmosphere, the interesting thoughts, the characters. The characters really perfect in all stories of Terry Pratchett. They're really cool. The next story is a detective story, and it's Little Comfort, Edwin Hill, and it's the first book of the series. And I want to tell you that I will continue reading this series. So the story is talking about the main character girl. She's a librarian and she has a hobby. She loves to find some lost things and people. And in one moment, she just have an offer to find a person from the lady that she needs to find her brother, because they need to sell the house and just share the money from this deal. And she needs to find this man because sister can't find him. A lot of years they didn't connected, and actually she doesn't know where is he. And our main character girl, she just started her searching. And in this story is really interesting idea of their author, that we have a tandem of strange main characters, because we have a really interesting group of detectives. We have a main character girl, she's librarian. We have a small kid with her, because she must be near with this kid and she can't just give to anybody. So she like a nanny for this kid. And also they have dog. So, and this company just going for searching and try to find this man, because actually in the beginning she started to think that it couldn't be a problem for her, because she spent a lot of years for this hobby. She found a lot of things, a lot of people, and actually all the time everything was okay. But in this story we have the second line, and we can see as the life of this man who just she need to find. And actually this man is a really interesting person. He has a really interesting ideas, and he has a reality which he actually wanted to have. He has really interesting dreams. He wanted to be rich, he wanted to have a lot of money, but actually he doesn't want to work, he doesn't want to do anything. He just try to find somebody who can just give him money, and just he want to share them with his friend, who just his roommate. They just share the flat. So actually I love the story. I put this 4 out of 5, and the story was actually atmospheric, actually great, actually interesting, and there a lot of description of nature that actually a really big plus for the story. So I really in love in it, and I love the characters. But most of the time I was a bit annoying with the kid, because when, for example, the main character just went somewhere for the connection with some people, for the investigation, the kid all the time was near with her, and make some noises, make some other moments, try to speak something, and you have dialogue between people with some investigation, with some information, with sharing some information. And at this moment you just can read a lot of sounds which just a small kid make, something like that. Also in March I decided to meet with another really popular author of detective and thrillers, because I heard a lot of reviews. I have a lot of ideas about him, about his books, because he has different series, and I decided to try the first book of the series about Erica Foster and this Robert Bryndza, The Girl in the Ice. So the story is really atmospheric. I love the nature description, I love the weather description, because here we have a winter period, and in one moment the man just went to the place where he works, and understood that something wrong, nobody there, because it was a holiday, but he had an SMS message that he need to come there for just working for some hours. And in one moment he understood that something wrong, but he decided like, okay, I just went to the work place, and I just will go on the location, because he worked in the park, if I remember right, and in one place he just found in a river a dead body of the girl who was in the ice. And also I love to read about Erica Foster, but for me she was a main character, and she's a detective, and she is in a place, but we can understand that she had bad things in her past, that she did something happened, and she is not in a good mental health, and she most of the time nervous and annoying for other detectives and police officers, and we can understand like why she works there, and she of course has this case and start investigation about this lady in the ice. So I actually love themes, actually love ideas about this one, and I love that you can't expect most of the time what you can see in the story, what the theme you would have there, but actually the style is so easy written that I understood what's going on and what I will have in finishing line, and of course I have it, but I start to have some questions about moments in the book which actually author didn't give us the answers. So that's why I really interested about reading next this area and just understand maybe there I would have some answers, but probably not, because these questions just connected with the ideas of the first book about the characters, about their life, about the people there. So actually, yeah, and I put this 4 out of 5, but it was the perfect beginning of the series, and as I told you, I will continue to read this. The next story is really interesting, and I think that I have never read something like that, because it was a detective western novel and it's series, and it was the first book of the series. It was Holmes on the Range by Steve Hockensmith, and I actually took this because for me it was really curious to see how it would be written like detective in the western, in the idea that we have something happened there, and who would be detective who would try to investigate all this case. So we have a ranch, and in this ranch a lot of cows and bulls, and in one moment the main characters, we have 2 brothers, they understood that something bad happened because on the road they found a dead body, and a lot of cows just from the ranch go on this body, and nobody can understand who is this body, who is this person, because you can't understand who is it. And actually they started to think that probably it's the main person from this range, because from some period he just missed. And we start investigate this, and one of the brother, he is a fan of Sherlock Holmes, and in this story we have ideas that Sherlock Holmes is a real person, and he worked with the police and make some investigations, and all this investigation and his things we can read in newspaper. And the second brother, who can read, just every evening try to read some stories about Sherlock Holmes or some articles from newspaper about Sherlock Holmes and his investigations to the brother. And brother, he's so excited about this one, and he really loves the idea to be detective, and he tries to be a detective because they found a dead body on the road. I love the atmosphere of western. It's like I watched the film about the cowboys, about the ranch, about the cows, about the deal there. I really love the story. I put this 4 out of 5 too. I actually couldn't put 5, but I really love the story. I decided that I just minus 1 point because of the style of writing. It was so easy, and it was so easy finishing line, and I actually guessed what happened there, who was the person who just killed in all these things, who was the person on the road. So actually, yeah, but story and atmosphere were really great, and I will continue to read this series because I know that there are 7 or 8 books already in the series about these 2 brothers, about this investigation, about how they play detective. So I really love it. The next book which I want to tell you, it would be a really interesting book, and it's Claire Douglas, Then She Vanished. I read 3 books of Claire Douglas, and I really love this author. I understood that I wanted to read all her books, and I will wait new stories from her because I really love the descriptions of location, descriptions of people's life, and I really love how Claire Douglas write a really interesting and realistically life of a people, characters which she has in the story. Then She Vanished told us a family story about 2 sisters, and in one moment one sister just vanished. She missed. Nobody can understand where is she. Police just search everywhere but haven't found her, and after a lot of period we just see how the second sister, she just grown up, and how she lives, what she can do, how she feels about her sister, about missing her sister, what's happened. And through the past line we can understand moments which happened in the family, moments which happened with the sisters, and also we can see a lot of people which they met in the past and who also could be guilty in the vanishing of the older sister. I really love the story, but I put it 4 out of 5 too, because actually there would be in the finishing line one theme which I actually don't love. The next book which I want to tell you is really interesting because it's mixing of fiction and biography, and it's The African Samurai, and the story talks us about the real existing person who was from Africa, and he just went from other situations which can happen in his life in Japan, and he understood that he would stay there for all his life. And the story actually really interesting written. You have different chapters from different places, different time manners, and actually sometimes it was a bit disappointed that you want to read about things which you have in this chapter, but next chapter will connect with something else. So actually I love the idea that the main character is a real person. He told us about his life when he was a teenager, and people who just decided to took all kids from the village, make very bad things in this village, and just stole all the kids. And he, after some period, and he's traveling in different countries in Portugal and Spain, just met a priest. And when they came, the people understood that they see the person with the a dark color of the skin, and for them it was something unusual. And also they met the main person, a warrior. He just also was really curious about the skin, about the color, about the moments. And firstly, it was really interesting written in the book how the warrior decided to clean the person and so on. So actually there are a lot of interesting historical moments, a lot of interesting ideas, a lot of other things which really gives you ideas that it was really interesting to be in the book and just see how this person, from the boy who was in slavery, he started also a warrior, and he lived in Japan and was a friend with this main warrior in Japan. So it was really interesting, but I put the story 4 out of 5 because there are a lot of things which was imagined by author, because you can't find these facts in the internet. The next one is a really great detective and thriller. It's Jane Harper, The Lost Man, and it was my meeting with the author. And I want to tell you firstly that I put this story 5 out of 5. It was really greatly written. It was really interesting. It was so atmospheric because we are in Australia, and it's Australia which we actually can see on the National Geographic programs when you have a lot of sand, desert, and just one farm somewhere there. And we have main characters. They are family, they are brothers mostly. They spend time together, but in one moment they just decided to make a fence on the land which they have, which they owned, and just make some different small farms where they can live and where they can be owners. So we have 3 brothers, and the story begins with the moment when one of these brothers just die somewhere in the just place where the main fence is standing near with the tombstone. And this tombstone is really interesting idea because nobody knows exactly the fact. Who was this man who just buried there, or what happened, why he's there, because it wasn't a cemetery, it's just a tombstone. And we just can see all life of these people, of this family, their problems, their happy moments, the Christmas period, the presents, the ideas, what's happened with the brother. They try to investigate these moments, because actually I love the descriptions of living people in Australia. So I was in love with the story. I was so excited about reading this one. I just eat it up, and I was really disappointed in the end because the book was finished. The next 2 stories, it would be the second and the third part of the series of Julie Kagawa, and it's Shadow of the Fox. About the first one I told in January wrap-up, if I'm not mistaken. Today I will tell you about both of these parts, the second and third. So the second, Soul of the Sword, it's the second part about our main characters who just continue to go from one place to another place for just trying to keep their fragment of the paper. So in this story we continue to go with main characters to one place. We have meeting with some creatures, we have some battles, we have some other moments, but it's really great. Also we have here a story about the demon in a sword, which we had in the first book, and we can understand more deeply who is this demon, why he's in a sword, how it happened that he just in a sword and people can use it, and how he control the person who just take this sword. So it was really also interesting. And the third part, the last part of the series, which named Night of the Dragon, it's a part when it talks about the bad things which can happen, and the mega big battle happened. Of course it could happen, you can see the evaluation of main characters from one place to another, their character, their mood, their emotional level, and you can see what happened at the end. So I really love the story, and I really love the finishing line, how the author finishing the series, what happened, how it would be. And actually it was really greatly to see how characters grown up, how our main character Yumika grown up, because in the beginning, in the first book, she is like a small light moody person, all the time making some tricks and so on, because she's a kitsune and she just like to make some tricks, use her power and so on. But how we can see in the last book, she started to be more stronger, more courageous, started to be more serious because of some things which can happen with her and her friends in the road, in the road trip which they had. Both of the stories have 4 stars for me, and actually it's really great. It's really easy reading. It's a really well paced. You can read this in 1 month easily, because the story is really involving. The magic of atmosphere of Japan is really cool, and I really enjoyed the story when we just went somewhere in a small city, in the forest, and everywhere you can see small gods, small creatures which can also go to bed, and they're really great. The next one is a thriller, Nanny Needed, and actually I was expected more from the story. I put this 3 out of 5, and for me the story was a bit okay, but the beginning was really interesting. We had a big family, a rich family, which live in a penthouse, and they just wanted to have a new person who will work in the house. They need nanny for a small child. And we have a main character girl. She's working in a restaurant, but she doesn't love it. She has a lot of problems with money and so on. She lives with her boyfriend, and they also had a lot of debts, a lot of credits. So actually the life is not good, and for her it was really surprisingly to see on the adverts that this rich family wanted to have a young lady for the position of a nanny for the small kid. Of course she had this job because she is the main character of the story, but she started to have some problems with the main character mom of the girl, because she doesn't want to show the girl to our main character. And you, like a reader, start to think about a lot of problems, a lot of secrets, a lot of hidden moments in the family, and actually it was really good to understand what's going on there. Also I love the idea of the author to show you mixing of reality, hallucination, some dreams and so on, and the story is really great. But after the half, story started to be more slowly, more not so excited, and actually it was like a story like you on one location and you can have a lot of action, something like that. The next story, it was Moreno, it was Tierra. It was a really dystopian novel, and I really love dystopian novels. I read a lot of them, and I decided to try something modern from this genre, and I wanted to read Tierra. The story talks us about reality, when we have a reality show, and they decided to make it reality show on Mars, on another planet, and we just can see how voting of the people just come in, how they sell a lot of messages for the people who they wanted to see on this reality show. We just see some periods, the period of who must be there, the period how they live on the Mars, and how they spend time in the reality show, and what people love, see, and so on. And also the finishing line about things which can happen there with reality show and actually with the people. In story we have the second line of brother and sister, and they are kids of a person who just imagined and created this reality show, and they have their own quest. So they need to find some different keys, answers for the questions which just that left for them for something. And actually it's really hard to say about this story, because I love everything which connected with reality show, because I wanted to read more about reality show, but mostly we have story about brother and sister, about the childhood, about the relationships with the dad and mom, the relationship with each other, with together, the connection after they grown up and they started to live separately. So actually, yeah, interesting story, interesting ideas, a lot of deep thoughts which author just give us. But actually, I put this 3 out of 5 because I expected more than I had. And the last story which I want to tell you, it's the second part of the series, Tracy Wolff and its Crush. So it's series over Crave, about the school. It's something like Dark Academia, and in the school we have a lot of different creatures. We have vampires, we have werewolves, we have witches, and so on. And we have the main character, girl. She is a person who in the first story just went to the school because she had some problems with the family. It was a car accident and she is now alone without parents, and she just went to the school because of her uncle, because he is a director in this school, but nobody can tell her the truth, that the school for the creatures, not for just usual human. And she most of the time just do other things for understanding what's going on there, because everybody is really strange here with her. And actually the second part just talking us about the directly continuation of the first story, when the finishing line of the first story just giving us a lot of questions. And the second started with the idea that the main character, she just came back from some places where she missed 4 months, but she doesn't remember anything, and she all the time tries to remember what's happened with her. So it's actually hard also to speak about this story, because it would be a lot of spoilers if I told you. But this story I really love with the idea of games which happened there, because our main character, she started to have some ideas, and for having these ideas and dreams, she must to play a game and make some quests. Actually, I put the story 3 out of 5, and I understood that I don't want to read next parts. Wouldn't be so interesting for me, because I understood what's going on there, what about the love line, what about the things which author just wanted to give you. So yeah, I told you today about 14 books which I read in 2 months, and I actually want to say that this month were really interesting by books, were really great. I want to tell you, I don't want to say that it was so excited or I was in love with these books, but actually, yeah, all stories were really great, were really interesting, and actually I really love the idea to read different stories, different genres, different locations, and see different characters on these locations. I will wait you in comments. Just let me know what have you read for these 2 months, what was the best book, what was the worst book, and actually how many books have you read. Just let me know what you're reading now and how you finished your April, how many books you read, and maybe you have some really highly hot recommendation for me for reading. Thanks for watching this one. Bye!